Hello friends. Welcome to my channel. Today, I will tell you a very special story. It is the story of a great man, Nelson Mandela. He was a leader, a fighter, and a man who changed history. He fought for freedom and justice. But his life was not easy. He faced many struggles, went to prison, and lost many things. But he never gave up. This is his story. Let's begin. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, in the small village of Mvezo, in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. His father, Gadla Henry Mfakaniaswa, was the chief of the Thembu people, and his mother, Nosekeni Fanny, was one of his 4 wives. Nelson's father was a respected leader, but his life changed when he lost his position due to a disagreement with the colonial authorities. Despite this, young Nelson was raised in a family that valued leadership, respect, and tradition. From a young age, Nelson showed a deep interest in learning. He listened to the stories of his ancestors, the history of his people, and the struggle against colonial rule. His birth name, Rolihlahla, meant troublemaker, and in many ways, he lived up to that name. However, his troublemaking was not for mischief, it was for justice. He enjoyed playing with other children in his village, running through the fields, and herding cattle, as was common for boys in his community. His mother, a devout Christian, ensured that he attended church regularly, which also influenced his beliefs in justice and humanity. Nelson Mandela's education journey began at a local Methodist school, where his teacher gave him the English name Nelson, as was common in colonial South Africa. He later attended Clarkberry Boarding Institute and Healdtown, prestigious schools for African students. Education opened his eyes to the injustice and oppression that black South Africans faced under the rule of the white minority. He developed a keen interest in African history and leadership, often listening to the elders discuss past rulers and warriors who had defended their land from colonizers. In 1939, he joined the University of Fort Hare, the only university for black students at the time. Here, he studied law and became involved in student activism. However, his time at the university was cut short when he and a friend were expelled for participating in a protest against the university's policies. This was one of his first acts of defiance against unfair treatment, but it would not be his last. Despite this setback, he did not give up on his dream of higher education. He later completed his law degree through correspondence while working in Johannesburg. After leaving Fort Hare, Mandela fled to Johannesburg to escape an arranged marriage planned by his guardian. In Johannesburg, he faced the harsh realities of apartheid, a system of racial segregation that denied black South Africans basic rights. He worked as a night watchman and then as a law clerk while completing his legal studies at the University of Witwatersrand. Life in the city was tough, but Mandela's determination kept him going. He lived in Alexandra, a poor township, where he witnessed firsthand the struggles of black South Africans living under extreme poverty and government oppression. During this time, Mandela met Walter Sisulu, a political activist who introduced him to the African National Congress, ANC. The ANC was a movement fighting for the rights of black South Africans. Inspired by their cause, Mandela joined the struggle for freedom. He spent countless hours attending meetings, engaging in discussions, and planning ways to resist the government's unjust laws. His passion for justice grew stronger, and he became an active voice in the movement. Mandela's personal life was deeply intertwined with his political activism. He married Evelyn Mays in 1944, and they had 4 children together. However, due to Mandela's increasing involvement in the ANC and his political commitments, their marriage suffered. Evelyn, a deeply religious woman, could not accept his growing revolutionary activities. Their differing views on politics and priorities caused a rift between them. They eventually divorced in 1958, and Mandela, though heartbroken, remained dedicated to the cause of fighting for freedom. Shortly after, Mandela married Winnie Madikizela, a strong-willed social worker who later became a key figure in the anti-apartheid movement. Together, they had two daughters, Zenani and Zinziswa. Winnie supported Mandela's cause, but their marriage faced great difficulties due to his long imprisonment. Winnie herself endured imprisonment, harassment, and exile during Mandela's years behind bars. She continued the struggle against apartheid in his absence, becoming a powerful leader in her own right. However, their relationship faced many challenges, and they divorced in 1996. In his later years, Mandela married Graca Machel, the widow of Mozambique's former president, Samora Machel. Graca stood by him, offering companionship and support as he transitioned from political leader to global icon. She played a significant role in his later life, helping him manage his foundation and continue his work for social justice. In the 1940s, Mandela, along with Oliver Tambo and other young activists, helped form the ANC Youth League. They believed in direct action, protests, and non-violent resistance against apartheid laws. As apartheid became more brutal in the 1950s, Mandela and the ANC organized strikes, boycotts, and demonstrations to fight racial discrimination. The government responded with violence, arrests, and harsher laws. Mandela knew the struggle would not be easy, but he remained firm in his beliefs. In 1952, Mandela and Tambo opened South Africa's first black law firm, providing free or low-cost legal services to black South Africans facing injustice. Mandela became known as a strong leader, but his activism made him a target for the government. He was arrested multiple times and banned from attending public gatherings. The government saw him as a threat, but he continued his work in secret, using disguises and secret meetings to plan the resistance. In 1961, after peaceful protests were met with violence, Mandela co-founded the armed wing of the ANC, Umkhonto we Sizwe, Spear of the Nation. The group carried out sabotage attacks against government facilities. In 1962, Mandela was arrested and sentenced to 5 years in prison. While in prison, he was charged again in the Rivonia trial of 1964 and sentenced to life imprisonment for sabotage and conspiracy. Mandela was sent to Robben Island, a harsh prison where he spent 18 years of his 27-year sentence. Despite the brutal conditions, he remained strong, studying, writing, and inspiring other prisoners. He became a symbol of resistance for people all over the world. While imprisoned, his children grew up without him, and his marriage with Winnie faced numerous struggles. Yet, his hope for freedom never faded. As international pressure against apartheid grew, calls for Mandela's release became louder. In 1990, after decades of struggle, President F.W. de Klerk released Mandela. His first speech after his release called for peace and reconciliation. In 1994, South Africa held its first democratic elections, and Nelson Mandela became the country's first black president. His leadership focused on unity, reconciliation, and rebuilding a nation torn apart by racism. After serving one term as president, Mandela continued his work as a global advocate for peace and human rights. He established the Nelson Mandela Foundation, which focused on social justice issues. His fight for equality, forgiveness, and justice inspired millions. Nelson Mandela passed away on December 5, 2013, but his legacy lives on. He proved that courage, determination, and forgiveness could change the world. So, friends, this was the story of Nelson Mandela. He showed us that no matter how hard life is, we must keep fighting for what is right. He taught us about love, peace, and forgiveness. Even after so much pain, he chose kindness. His life is an inspiration for all of us. If you liked this story, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I will bring more amazing stories for you. Thank you for watching. See you next time.